What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I want to break down what happened with the FOMC meeting and talk about how this could affect the markets and what's going on with things developing. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just 12 days. Anyways, for NIO, we saw a nice little pump and dump like move. We saw kind of like a buy the rumor, sold news event where NIO has been up for the last couple of days, approaching the release of their ES8. And then as soon as that ended up getting released, we saw NIO dip a bit. So that is what I was talking about in my earlier videos. I mentioned to you all about how FOMC is going to be a big catalyst and why on earth NIO has this tough resistance at 5.6. To be bullish, we had to break and hold above 5.62, but we failed to do so, forming a double, if not triple top leg structure. So this could lead to even more downside, all the way down to these targets in the fours if this level breaks. So I'll talk more about this in just a minute, but let's first talk about what happened with FOMC. So FOMC was very important. The Fed gave us a 50 basis point cut, and also when it comes to their interest rate projections, they're anticipating more cuts than before and for rates to be a little bit lower. The market obviously liked this initially, got a nice little push upon the release of the data before it saw a big rug pull as Jerome Powell gave his speech and started answering questions. So this is very important. So what's going on is Jerome Powell kept on insisting the economy is fine, this and that, but he mentioned that the Fed is not officially in a cycle where they're just going to keep cutting and cutting and cutting. They do have projections for that, but they're going to take it meeting by meeting. And then he kept going on about how the economy is okay, this and that. But many people were very suspicious of that, especially considering the fact that they gave us a 50 basis point cut to start things off. Does that signify that the Fed has been basically holding rates high for too long and they're kind of late? Is it because they reacted too late to inflation so that's everything is delayed? Or could it be that the Fed is lying and they know that there is a recession coming? They know there's a lot of contractions coming to the GDP reports and unemployment is going to continue to skyrocket. Could it be they know all of this and they are just trying to react quickly and they're not really telling us that, right? That's a strong possibility. So from the way the market saw this, they priced in a cut already. This was priced in, so us getting a sell off afterwards is not really that big of a surprise. We did get an initial pump, of course. I mentioned to everyone if we got 50 basis points, look for a little bit of a pump right after, and then we'll see if that lasts. And lo and behold, the market did get a rejection. So we priced in a lot of this, and there is still uncertainty about what Jerome Powell mentioned about what the Fed is going to do next. We don't know for sure. We have to wait and see. And with that, for that reason, I wouldn't be surprised if seasonality starts to kick in and the market does cool off a bit. That is oftentimes what happens during events like these. So we'll see how it goes. The Fed is anticipating that they're going to be cutting a little bit more than what we saw for their previous projections relative to what they said in June. So right here, you guys can see the numbers are looking like the Fed is getting ready for more cuts. I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy in the data. Now the market thinks there's a 32% chance we get a 50 basis point cut again in November, and there's about a 70% chance almost that we get a 25 basis point cut for November as well. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the Fed ends up doing. That's going to be very, very key, at least for the way things are moving. Now, with that being said, I just want to mention that with these shifts, NIO did announce their ES8 in the Chinese market, also known as the EL8 in Europe, because of copyright reasons. I think they have to give it a different name. But that's going to be, once again, launching in Europe. It just came out. And I think it's very, very cool. So their deliveries have been starting in Europe. They're getting a lot of attention for this. I think it's very cool. This is actually a great market for them. And then on top of this, I just want to say that with more people potentially buying up these vehicles, they're getting a lot of attention right now. There's a lot of people talking about that. The EL8, also known as the ES8, is now launching. It's making its way into Europe, and this is going to help boost their sales, in my opinion. So I think it's very cool. And you can see how a lot of attention is kind of being drawn to this by these families. So very, very cool stuff. I think it's great to see that. JP Morgan has given NIO an overweight rating, and then volume is at about 64 million. Now, although it's great to see NIO trying to hold up, I do want to note that the overall market is at risk of kind of slowing down a bit after that FOMC report. And NIO looks a little bearish. We have kind of like this range that we're starting to break out of. So we broke the lows right here. So look at resistance at this 5.23 area. If we break past that, we could be looking for a pushback up to 5.4. And if we don't break through the 5.2, so we're looking for a dip to about 4.99. If that fails, I think NIO is going all the way down to the 4.76 area. So I anticipate more downside's most likely going to come. We'll see how we end up reacting, but there is a risk of more downside nonetheless. For SPY, okay, SPY is looking a little bit weak. We have a triple bearish divergence that has developed, and we're barely holding this trend line right here. So if you guys look at this trend line, this yellow line I had drawn out right here from this support to this one, SPY was holding that. That's where we're trying to hold up right now. But this looks like we could have been getting a liquidity grab, especially with the way the market reacted to Powell. So if I look at the daily looks kind of weak right here. So we need to see if there's a follow through move. If we lose 560, we're looking for a dump to about 555. If we hold 560, we could try to technically rebound. In my opinion, it looks like this is going to try to maybe gap up tomorrow and start dipping lower. I think that we're at risk of coming down to fill this gap down here at 558, if not come all the way down to at least 555. So I anticipated some downside. I think looking at the setup, it looks kind of bearish with the bearish divergence and this rejection after Powell's speech. So look for some downside. Tomorrow is the most likely case. I also want to mention that ES got a rejection. We have this big gap to fill. So ES might be coming down to fill the gap in the 56.36 area, which is going to drag SPY to the lower 560s, if not below that. And then we could be testing our 20 EMA at 55.83. That's going to drag things lower. For Nvda, we got this rejection. We pumped and dumped only to come back down. So we have these gaps down here. I think we could be dipping back down lower to this imbalance towards 109. If 111 fails, let's look for 109. If we break past 115, we could turn back up, but this is favoring downside. Bitcoin looks a little bit more bearish. We're making lower highs right now. If we end up losing 58,000, we're looking for a bigger tip towards 55,500. If we break past 60,000, a hold above it, we're looking for 62,000. This looks kind of bearish, so just be kind of careful. For other factors out there, we have Tesla. Tesla's once again in a very, very interesting place. If we break past this resistance at 235, we could be going for that gap fill. But today, even with Jerome Powell's speech and the fact that the Fed gave us a cut of 50 basis points, it was not enough for Tesla to break through that resistance. We pumped to 235 only to reject. So I think Tesla might be dipping down to about the lower 220s. We might be looking for a retest of 225. If we lose 225, I think we come back down to our 20 EMA. It might be a little bit of a dip coming. For NQ, we still have that gap to fill. We're starting to dip right here. I think we might be dipping towards 19,400 to fill that gap. The QQQ is also starting to reject here off this bearish divergence. I think we're easily going down to about 468, if not lower. So watch for that as well. For Aapl pushed up to this resistance, but there is a downward trend that's being established right over here, especially as we are struggling to really get back above 224. So look for a retest of 221.63 tomorrow, maybe a little bit above that. And then we'll be looking to see if Aapl gets a rejection and continues lower as we have that gap to fill below. So the market looks a little bit heavy to me. We got a big rejection on the IWM. We have this gap to fill below, so I think we easily go down to 217, if not 215 by tomorrow. And we have a lot of gaps down here, so be careful if we lose like 215. For just a few more, Coinbase kind of pumped and dumped a little bit. It's still trading sideways within a range. If we lose 162, though, we could be dipping lower. If we break 168, we could push higher. So watch and see if 162 breaks. This 160 area will be coming down to fill these imbalances. For Amazon, we have a indecisive doji that forms. So this might lead to some downside. Typically, this is what forms when we reverse. So this could lead us to about 184 or below. So I do see a risk of Amazon dipping. We need to break past 188 to remain bullish. We might gap up tomorrow, then dip. Meta kind of pushed a bit. It's still holding up nicely. So we'll see how this does. It's still holding up. There's no sign of a big rejection on it yet. If we lose 537, I could be looking for 535 or below. If we hold above 540, we could be pushing higher, so this could reject, so be very, very careful. For Microsoft, we're kind of rejecting. We're kind of pumped and dumped right here, so we'll see how 430 holds. If 430 breaks, we're looking for a dip all the way down to 425, then 422. And then for Google, we'll be looking to see if this rejects as well. So we're barely holding 160. If we end up losing 159.73 tomorrow, we're looking for that gap fill below this gap down here. There's a lot of gaps here. So it could be looking for a reversal, guys. I want to be a little careful with Google. So just want to give you guys a heads up about that. With that being said, guys, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. That's it for my analysis. I want to appreciate you guys for listening. So as far as the market goes, there is a risk of downside. NIO looks kind of weak on the daily, so I do anticipate downside as we have these gaps to fill. So I might be looking for a test of the 4.75 area. If we lose 5, I'm potentially even lower if that ends up failing. So I want to give you guys a heads up. With that being said, I appreciate you guys for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon for another update tomorrow. Thanks again, and peace out.